Hey y'all, so I am actually so excited for today's video because I am going to talk about some of my favorite books from the last couple of months. I didn't do a reading wrap up for January, February, March, and now we're in April. So I figured I would just pull some of my favorite reads from those last couple of months and tell you about them today. The first book I want to talk about today is The 10,000 Doors of January by Alex E. Harrow. This book was stunning. It's about a girl named January who is raised by this man, Mr. Locke. She doesn't know anything about her mother, and her father, who works for Mr. Locke, is never around. So January discovers these doors that lead into different mysterious places, and she starts to have these adventures with her childhood friend Samuel. There's a little bit of a romance going on there, and she learns where she comes from and kind of discovers her place in the world. So this is a fantasy novel and a coming of age story. There were so many quotes that I loved in this book. This was one that kind of reminded me why I love reading so much. And it was actually given to me by my mother-in-law for Christmas. And I'll be honest, I wasn't too excited when I looked at the cover. I thought it might be a little boring, but I had it with me on the plane ride home, and that's why I started reading it, and I absolutely loved it. So the quote I want to share with you guys, though, is, "I happen to believe every story is a love story if you catch it at the right moment, slantwise in the light of dusk." And I just love that. It's so romantic. So if you haven't read this, I definitely recommend that you pick it up and give it a read. Okay, the next book is Verity by Colleen Hoover. This is my first Coho book, and let me just say I was obsessed. I think this was one that I read in a day, or I stayed up really late reading it. It is a thriller. It's about a woman, Lowen, who's a struggling artist, and she ends up getting this deal of a lifetime. She's hired by the husband of a best-selling author named Verity. And Verity has been in a terrible accident and can't finish this super popular book series. So her husband, Jeremy Crawford, hires Lowen to finish the series for them. So Lowen moves into their house so she can go through all of Verity's transcripts and just get an idea of how this book is supposed to be completed. But instead, she finds an unfinished autobiography of Verity's, and it's super disturbing. And the closer Lowen becomes with Jeremy, the more concerned she gets for him. This was so good. I won't tell you how the ending is exactly, but it kind of gives you two different options of what you think could happen, and that drives me insane. I very much like to be told this is how it is. But anyway, if you've read this book, I need you to comment down below which of the two versions you think is true, because I don't know how to say any of this without spoiling it for people who haven't read it. I will say I don't want to spoil things, so I'll chat down below about it, but be careful if you haven't read this and you're scrolling through the comment section. I would hate for something to get spoiled. Also, this book reminded me a little bit of A Simple Favor and Gone Girl. So if you like those, I think you would like this one too. It's kind of funny though, because I could not stop picturing Jeremy Crawford as Henry Golding, who's in A Simple Favor. I just feel like he would be the perfect Jeremy. This one I really loved, but I actually didn't mark a lot of quotes in it. There was one, this one's so small, but you know I love my romance. So it was, "He grips my waist with both hands and presses his forehead to mine." That's not really much of a quote, but I just thought it was cute. Okay, my next book is Night Road by Kristen Hanna. I absolutely adore this author. She wrote The Nightingale, which is one of my absolute favorite books. I've got 3, and she is one of them. I hadn't read any others from her. I had started one on a vacation with my mom, but she took the book home with her and I never finished it. So I decided to give this one a read. It is a fictional drama. It's about this girl, Lexi. She's a former foster child and she moves into a new town and meets this girl, Mia, and becomes good friends with her, and then also falls in love with Mia's twin brother, Zach. Jude is the twins' mother and she's very overbearing and overprotective, and she was kind of a tough character to handle. So this tragic accident happens their senior year and it completely changes all of their lives. I'm not going to tell you what it is because I don't want to spoil anything for you guys, but I will give you a warning that this book is so heartbreaking. Like, I cried basically every time I picked it up to read it. And the funny thing is, Jude was a super annoying character to me and she made me so mad sometimes, but she's also the reason that I cried just about every single time. Like, I don't know, something about her I really connected with. And I'm warning you, if you're gonna read this book, grab some tissues. And I actually didn't have a quote to share from this one, but I loved it. Second Coho book is It Ends With Us. This was another really sad one. I'm sorry, you guys. I don't know why I'm coming at you with all these depressing reads. This book is about a woman named Lily who grew up with a father who would abuse her mother, and she couldn't ever understand why her mother would put up with that until she finds herself in a similar situation. So caught between an old love and a new love, Lily kind of has to make some difficult decisions. This book was super heartbreaking, but it was also super eye-opening to what some people go through when it comes to domestic violence situations, and why it's not always the easiest for them to get out of those situations or walk away from them. Okay, so the quote I loved from this book I had actually heard before I had read the book. So when I was reading it, I was thinking of this quote and I thought there was a couple people I thought she might be saying it to, and I was totally wrong. And I am so glad I was wrong, because the way that Colleen Hoover wrote this line into the book was so perfect, it made me cry. I'm not gonna tell you who I thought she might have possibly been saying this to because I don't want there to be any spoilers. It was so perfect. But the quote was, "It stops here with me and you, it ends with us." And you will just have to read the book to find out who she says that to. The last book I want to talk about is Where the Crawdad Sings by Delia Owens. I loved this book. It's a little rough around the edges, but this was such a good read. I actually read this at the end of last year, but it was, I think, almost January when I read it, so I'm just going to sneak it in here. Especially since they're making a movie on this. I am so excited. I think it comes out in July. I really hope I have this video up before then. That's like 3 months away still, so if I can get my stuff together, I will have this video up before the movie comes out. But hopefully in just enough time to convince you to pick this book up and read it before the movie comes out. This is a fiction book. It's a little bit of a mystery and kind of a coming of age story as well. So this book is about a girl named Kaya, aka the Marsh Girl. She was abandoned at a young age and had to learn how to survive on her own in the marshes of North Carolina. So when the popular boy from town, Chase Andrews, ends up dead in the marshes, the townspeople start to suspect Kaya. So the townspeople have kind of alienated Kaya because she's a little different. Nobody realizes that she's just like everybody else, wanting to belong and be loved and accepted. And of course, there's a little bit of romance in the story. You all know I love my romance. Really, every single one of these books has a little bit of romance in it. This book was definitely aggravating though. It was one of those books where I was like yelling at it while I was reading, like the characters would be able to hear me. My poor husband had to listen to me rant about it on multiple occasions, but it was such a beautiful story. The quote that I really loved from this one was, "She figured Ma's words needed somewhere to go, so she absorbed them through her skin," which I just thought was so beautiful. Anyway, guys, those were my favorite reads from early 2022. If you've read any of these books, I would love to hear your thoughts down below, and I would also love to hear what you guys have been reading this year. I'm always looking to add on to my never-ending TBR list, so let me know what you think, and I hope to see you guys next Wednesday.